Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a huge one: how to reclaim your focus in a world that feels like it was built from the ground up to distract you. We're diving into Nir Eyal's book, Indistractable, because he argues we have way more power over our attention than we think. So this whole journey for the author started with a single moment, one that probably hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. He was with his daughter, supposed to be having this special one-on-one time, but he was on his phone. And when he finally looked up from his screen, she was gone. That moment of lost connection, it was a total wake-up call that sent him on a mission to figure out what distraction is really all about. His first instinct, blame the tech, right? So he goes all in on this digital detox. He ditches his smartphone for a flip phone, gets his news from a real paper newspaper, and even buys a clunky old word processor that couldn't connect to the internet. But a funny thing happened. He just found new ways to get distracted. Instead of writing, he'd just go organize his bookshelf. He realized, wait a minute, it's not the tech. The problem is deeper. And that realization leads us to the absolute core question of this whole idea. If it's not our phone buzzing or the endless emails or social media, then what is the real reason we get pulled away from the things we want to do? The answer? Well, it pretty much flips everything we've been told about distraction on its head. Okay, so here it is. The root cause of distraction isn't an external pull from our devices. It's an internal push. It's us trying to escape a feeling we don't want to deal with. Think about it. Boredom, loneliness, anxiety, stress, you name it. Our phones and apps are just the most convenient and effective escape hatches ever invented. And this quote just nails it. It boils the entire idea down to one sentence. If you really want to manage your time, you first have to learn how to manage the internal pain that makes you want to escape in the first place. It's a huge shift in perspective, right? The problem isn't out there. It starts in here. So how do we actually do this? Well, Eyal lays out a super practical 4-part game plan. First, we'll quickly recap what's really driving us to distraction. Then we'll get into the 4 big strategies: mastering those internal triggers, making time for what actually matters, hacking back all the external noise, and finally, using packs to make sure we follow through. All right, let's start with the model itself. To really get this, we need a map for our behavior. And it all comes down to 2 opposite forces that are constantly at war for our attention. Understanding this is, well, it's the key to the whole thing. Every single thing you do, all day long, can be sorted into one of 2 buckets. There's traction. That's any action that pulls you toward what you want in life. These are the things you do on purpose. And then there's distraction. That's anything that pulls you away from what you want. It really is that simple. And here's the trap we all fall into. We blame the proximate causes, the pings, the dings, the notifications. They're the obvious culprit. But the real driver, the root cause, is that uncomfortable feeling inside that we're trying to get away from. Okay, so since we know the real problem starts inside us, the first step has to be dealing with it head on. This first strategy is an incredibly powerful way to handle those uncomfortable urges the second they pop up. So the next time you feel that pull, that craving to check your phone or procrastinate, try this. It's called the 10-minute rule. First, you just notice the feeling. Then you tell yourself, okay, I can give in to this urge, but I have to wait just 10 minutes. And during that time, you surf the urge. You just observe the feeling with curiosity, not judgment. And what's amazing is, more often than not, the feeling just kind of dissolves. Right. So once you've got a tool to manage your internal world, it's time to get intentional about your external one. Step 2 is all about deciding in advance what you actually want to do with your time. And this quote is just so critical. Think about it. If you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, how can anything be a distraction? Any unplanned time in your schedule is basically a vacuum, and distraction will always rush in to fill it. If you don't plan your day, someone or something else will. The answer is a technique called time boxing. This isn't just a to-do list. This is about turning your values into actual time blocks on your calendar. You decide ahead of time what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Focused work, Time with your family, exercise, even time for email. It all gets a box. If it's in a box, it's traction. Everything else is a potential distraction. Okay, so you're managing your internal triggers, you've planned out your time for traction, but the outside world is still incredibly noisy. Step 3 is all about dealing with those endless pings and interruptions that are always trying to pull you off course. And for this, you just need one simple but powerful question. For every notification, every alert, every single interruption, you have to ask yourself, is this trigger serving me or am I serving it? Answering that honestly is how you start to take back control and consciously decide what gets your attention. Let's apply this directly to our phones. You can do this in under an hour with 4 easy steps. 1. Remove what you don't need. Delete the useless apps. 2. Replace their function. Check social media on your computer. Buy a cheap watch so you're not always looking at your phone for the time. 3. Rearrange your home screen so only useful tools are front and center. And 4. Reclaim your focus by going into your settings and being absolutely ruthless about turning off notifications. We're at the final step. This is your last line of defense. This is how you make sure you stick with your plan even when your future self is tired and your willpower is low. It's called a pre-commitment or a pact. And it's basically you, right now, while you're thinking clearly, making a decision that helps out the future you. You're locking yourself into a good choice now to prevent yourself from making a bad one later when you're tempted. It's an old idea. Think of Ulysses from Greek mythology. He wanted to hear the siren's beautiful, deadly song, so he had his crew tie him to the mast of the ship so he couldn't steer them into the rocks. We can do the same thing. We can use apps that block distracting websites for us. We can make a money bet with a friend that will finish a task. You're just putting up a barrier that makes distraction harder. So when you put this all together, you realize becoming indistractable isn't just a list of tips and tricks. It's about changing your identity. It's about deciding that you are the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do. You're someone who lives with intent. When you master your internal triggers, make time for traction, hack back the noise, and use packs to ensure you follow through, you're not just managing your attention anymore. You are taking back control of your entire life. The power isn't in the technology. It has been in you the whole time. So the real question is, what will you choose to do with it?